Welcome back to the Stag Roar podcast. This is episode 321. It's been a while since we've done an episode. As I spoke about in the last one with Siobhan, been on a little bit of a come down from my wedding. Although I've also been pretty busy doing plenty of other things. This episode I'm joined by Katie Jolly. If you're one of the keen hunters that listen to this podcast, you might recognise the name Jolly. Big name there in Taupo and throughout New Zealand in hunting history. But yes, this is Katie Jolly, married to Simon, and a naturopath in Taupo. As I say at the start of this episode, it's pretty amazing the people that I get to run into just in my job, and then to have a platform like the Stag Roar podcast to then be able to have a awesome in-depth chat is really cool. We go through Katie's sort of beginnings as she left high school and went into acting. The turning point of giving that up and sort of the challenges she had and why she left the acting industry, but that sort of pivoted her into naturopathy and many other healing modalities, and then her journey with traumatic brain injury, which she is now hugely passionate about, not just through brain injury but through neurodivergence. So Katie runs a really cool network of people around the world who have sort of head issues or brain issues. She talks about Dr. Eamon out of the States there, which she's done a lot of work studying through, and has created a really awesome network that meets every week on Zoom and has a discussion and talks about topics, and it's really supportive and just really cool to meet and catch up with Katie, and got to spend a bit of time with her and her husband. Right, Kate, or is it Katie?
Katie.
Katie Jolly.
Yes. It's up there.
Yeah. The world's pretty serendipitous. Like you came in with was it your daughter? Or your son?
Yeah, absolutely, my daughter.
Yeah. And we had she glancing like, are you riding? And I was like, yeah. What have I done? Taupou's obviously pretty small. You're practicing out of here, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Practicing from home.
Yeah.
Now, but I was.
I'll turn you that way. Yep.
Okay.
Good. No, good.
Yeah, running a wellness program for Tū Whare Health for 2 years, and in and out of clinic. So this is my first sojourn to just working from home, doing online stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wicked. So how did you? Was it COVID that drove you online, or?
No, not at all. COVID was when I had my head injury. So just when COVID hit, I was still working in Crystal Outdoors, so in the family business, and then had a injury during lockdown, and then went through that rehabilitation process for a year. And then when I came out of that, I went back into natural health, which is my passion anyway.
So you were saying before you left school as an actress.
Yeah.
How does that end, and how does health start?
Ooh, they're closely tied.
Yeah, no doubt. You were talking about expectations for television before.
Yeah. So I left home at 17 to go to drama school in England, and I quickly found that I was bigger than a lot of the other kids. So I decided to go vegan, right? This is great for all your meat-eating listeners. I decided to go vegan because someone told me I'd get skinny, but I got really fat. I put on 25 kilos in a year. And because I thought that vegan was salt and vinegar chips, bread, and dark chocolate.
Well, they are, but...
Yeah. I just picked the good ones out. So put on a whole heap of weight, had a mental health kind of breakdown at that time, came back to New Zealand and then flitted around, but I was in touring Shakespeare Company, then with the Australian Shakespeare Company in Melbourne in my 20s, but I was partying pretty hard.
As you do.
Yeah. We were paid really good money. We were just performing during the evening. At the end of the show, we'd get high, drink, at least a bottle of wine a night, party for 6 nights a week. And I had a mental breakdown at 23. So I came home and then found out that I had fatty liver disease from all the alcohol. Yeah. And chewy sweets, that was my thing. And the doctors here basically said, we can't do anything with you. when I went to the doctor, she didn't really know what was wrong with me apart from my liver results being really screwy. And she asked me at the time, was I sleeping with men who have been sleeping with prostitutes or using needles?
You got hepatitis.
Yeah, because my liver was that bad. Couldn't hold food, really bad digestive issues, and I found a functional doctor who did food testing through the Pulse that was based here, Dr. Tanya Hillaby, and within 6 weeks all my symptoms cleared up, and that motivated me to go and study natural medicine. So that was the beginning of the journey, and it hasn't finished.
What was the demands on you with the Shakespeare Company? Like, did you guys pretty much know your lines off the bat? Like, what was rehearsal like? What was travel like?
Oh, it was phenomenal. Well, I don't know if I'd call it phenomenal now, but I think as a reckless youth, when I worked in the Shakespeare Company in the UK, we travelled through England, Wales and Scotland. We performed in all the stately manors and homes. So at that, I was in my early 20s, seeing that those amazing landscape. And it was all outdoor theatre, so we'd pack up the set. We'd perform on some rich person's lawn. And then we'd pack it all up at the end of the night and go again. It was it's definitely an experience of living out of a suitcase. And
you'd rehearse prior, or as you go as well? Or?
No. We'd rehearse prior, so we had 6 months rehearsal, and then you're straight into to being on stage. Similar to it's getting less and less now with theatrical productions. I've got a friend in the States who's a professional actor, and he said they've got about 3 weeks until they're on stage.
Wow. So, like, especially with Shakespeare, it's old as. What sort of direction do you get out of it? Like, how do you get picked as well? Like,
I was really good at drama school. I was top of the drama school, and that's why I got the scholarship as well to go into the theatre school in the UK. But I think it's tenacity. It's like most things, right? It's the same as sport. You can get somebody who's really, really talented at sport, but if they don't do the work, they're never going to get chosen. I think that acting and sport are quite similar. You may have a certain amount of talent, but it's your tenacity that sees you through.
And did you work with an agent, or how did that go?
I did. I had an agent in Melbourne. He was just before my breakdown, actually, and he was probably one of the reasons. But I went to him, and because you have an actor's bio, right, and part of the bio is you have to put down your build. So anyway, this guy was the top. He probably still is. He was the top agent in Melbourne. I got in through a friend I was working with at the Australia Shakespeare Company, and so he had been the agent for Nicole Kidman, for Tom Cruise when he's in Australia. Like, he's a real big gun. So I went in to see him, and on my bio I had slender, right? And he goes, "Oh, Katie, see you put down slender." And he starts tapping his pen on the side, and I just went bright red. And he goes, Dale, he said, "You got a really pretty face, but unless you want to be a XXX catalogue model, you need to lose 20 kilos real quick." And I went out of there, and I got a bottle of Chardonnay at the time, 2 Pizza Hut pizzas, and went home crying. I thought, like, I'm done. And the next day I got a call for an audition for a Pizza Hut ad.
Was it Pizza Hut?
It was Pizza Hut I had. But
1958, I saw that. That's the marketing at the moment. I'm like, oh, geez, Pizza Hut's going nostalgic on us.
Yeah. So I ended up coming out of the industry, which I'm grateful for now, because I sort of decided that I'd rather help people than entertain them, I guess.
How did you get the ideas at school to go, I'm going to, I suppose the OE thing's always there, but like that's like pursuing a dream over there. That's not going to, you did both, but.
Yeah. Well, I think it was just this kind of snobbery that, the best. I wanted to go to RADA, which is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
Cool.
that's what I wanted to go to RADA. And
who told you about that?
I don't know. I think I followed Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins a lot, and that's kind of where they all went. All the top actors went to RADA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow! And do many people believe in you in New Zealand? Like,
when I was acting?
Yeah, like you're a high school student. I'm going to go to UK and.
Oh, I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. They probably thought I was crazy.
You're a bloody-minded 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
But it was really interesting because my parents didn't want me to go. I was at a home. I was living with my sister at the time. I moved out at 16, and I was determined to go. So I was working, working as a waitress, working as a cleaner, and still at school, just saving my money to get my plane ticket. So we've got family over in the UK, so I went and lived with my aunt there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's an insight to it, eh?
Like,
they live there. Yeah. And so what sort of acting were you doing in school? Like.
Oh, the standard. I was involved in Centre Stage. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Local Amdram.
Yeah. And did the New Zealand sort of repertory stuff come up, or that wasn't really even an idea?
No, not really. I was aiming high.
Yeah.
What
was on TV?
What, back then?
Yeah.
I don't know, Friends or something, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like now, obviously we've had Peter Jackson and stuff establish a scene in Wellington, and then there's all the studios in Auckland. So I don't know, I wonder if that limits New Zealand actors now. Like, it's kind of like go big or nothing. I don't know what's better. Or go into some sort of pathway and then eventually go, maybe I'll go to the States, or maybe I'll go to Australia, or maybe I'll go to the UK after that, and create some sort of portfolio, if you will, before you leave New Zealand. Yeah.
Well, I think there's definitely that pathway. I mean, I must have been, it was before I went, and I won a scholarship to go and work with Raymond Hawthorne.
Who's he?
Who's, I don't know if he still is, but he was massive theatre guru up in Auckland. And to do a workshop with him, and he said to me, look, come up to Auckland and I'll take you under my wing. And that, Shortland Street was really just starting then. And I said, no, thank you, I'm going to RADA. And I basically put my 17-year-old middle finger up at this guy who I didn't even know. But I do think that it's changed here in New Zealand, and that you can we've seen it with the different New Zealand actors. There's definitely, you can forge a pathway here.
It's fascinating, eh? Different paths and different journeys. Yeah. So when a doctor said they can't help you, what was, were you in like a rock bottom there, or how did you then pivot to go find help from someone else?
Yeah, I was rock bottom, and I'd studied, alongside the acting, I'd studied personal training as well. So, because you don't really make any money as an actress, if anybody didn't know that. You're in the top 2%.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was at rock bottom. They'd put me back onto they put me onto antidepressants. Yeah. And I didn't see the link between my health and my mental health. Yeah. That's my jam at the moment. And I was going into Binnin for some reason, and I just saw a flyer. Right. Yeah. Saw a flyer on the wall that, do you have these symptoms? I can help. And that was how. So it was a bit of serendipity. Yeah. But it was a moment that really changed my life, because I saw the link. But after 6 weeks of following this diet and taking the inflammatory foods out, all my symptoms disappeared. Yeah. The mental health ones were still here, but definitely my digestive issues, skin issues, migraine. It was such a phenomenal turnaround.
Did the doctor call you an alcoholic or no?
The one that said, was I sleeping with?
Yeah.
I actually implied it.
Okay. But she didn't say you should get alcoholic help.
No. But I was 23. I might have been a bit glib about my, what I was actually up to. Yeah. Definitely wasn't doing what she suggested, but I was having a fair amount of booze.
Did that idea enter your head? Like, maybe I should go to a rehab facility? Or
No.
How did you detox away from it? Or was it just like I shouldn't do that?
No, I didn't even think I had the awareness of that I shouldn't do it. But I kind of hit, like in Melbourne, before I had my break, psychotic break kind of thing that brought me home. I had a week in my apartment where I wouldn't go outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just developed massive anxiety. All of a sudden, right?
Were you there alone as well?
No, I had a flatmate.
Yeah.
A flatmate with me.
What did they think of you?
I don't know. She's a beautiful human. She's a teacher.
Yeah.
So she was still having to go to work during the day, and I'd pulled the phone out of the wall. You know, it was in the olden days when you didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
I just disappeared from society, and then she contacted my parents and said, you need to bring her home. Yeah. So by the time I hit that doctor's office, I was at rock bottom, but I wasn't at the addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't searching for a crutch at that time. Yeah. Because the booze was normally about me having fun, and I wasn't having fun, so I didn't have booze.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah. It was what you had wrapped up as a fun time.
Yeah.
But I'm not having fun, so I'm not having a fun time.
Yeah.
So I'm not drinking.
So I'm not going to drink. Yeah.
Oh wow. Have you looked back on that? You're not slender, Katie, and so then you go and buy a bottle of wine and a couple of pizzas. Does that sort of narrative make you laugh?
Yeah, but I do think it's common.
Yeah.
I think it's common, and then if you look at how carbohydrate works in the brain. Yeah. Right?
Get a big dopamine.
Yeah. It's actually, the carbohydrate's actually giving you a bit of a boost at the time. So it's natural that we go towards that when we're feeling low, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I've just come from AC Baths, and there's a guy there, and he left his soap in the shower. I said, "Oh, is that your soap?" He's like, "Oh yeah, geez, I'm having a day of it," because he dropped his goggles in the sauna, and someone was like, "Oh, you dropped your goggles." Then he said he'd forgot his fob for getting into the pool, and I said, "Oh, you must have a sugar hangover after Easter." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll blame it on that one." There's probably a few people tomorrow that'll get to work and go, "Man, what am I doing today?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So naturopathy, explain that to people. Like, what's the ethos behind it?
I think if you look at the basis of Hippocrates, which I find quite ironic because most doctors take,
Hippocratic oath.
Hippocratic oath. Did you take the Hippocratic oath?
No, we didn't.
No, you didn't? Okay, no. You're lucky. The whole thing is let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. Mm-hmm. There's the foundation of Hippocrates. And so with naturopathy, you're looking at nutrition, you're looking at lifestyle, you're looking at herbs, you're looking at everything around the human that is creating the symptom. Mm-hmm. So it's not just looking at, I've got diarrhea, right? I'm just going to give you that pill for that diarrhea. Like, as a naturopath, you turn around and you look at everything around it, which might be stress. It might be too much caffeine. It could be gluten. What are all? It's looking at the why. Why is it happening? What's dysfunctional? And then you look about helping the person to heal that.
Yeah. I was pretty lucky to work. I did some work with Steve Joe up in Waikato, and that was kind of like, I was pretty certain I was gluten intolerant anyway, but he was like, you are. And then it's funny you're talking about like the symptom. My gran was sort of 4 medications deep on blood pressure and still getting over 200. Now, again, there's probably a stressful element to it as well, but at 84 she got diagnosed as celiac and went off all of them pretty much. I think she might be back on one, and that for a period there they thought her glaucoma had stabilised too. Now I think she's back on her one glaucoma drop, and it was also it was just like, oh, so that's my genetic line. Like, And interestingly, my mum, who's not the same family, has also found a lot of benefit in reducing her gluten. And I'm like, and then you hear people like Dr. Libby or Ben Warren down in Hawke's Bay talk about the links of gluten with Celtic heritage, and my heritage is scattered with Celtic.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably a good idea. Yeah, I definitely notice it. So,
Yeah.
I'm pretty motivated to stay that way, because I definitely, if I do eat it, I'm like, oh, that was bad.
Yeah, and I think that's what the real market is. Like so much of our culture is identified with you feel a certain way, you go and get a blood test. If that blood test says that it's negative, then you actually discount your own feelings, right?
Yeah, I had that blood test and said no.
Yeah. But you know that your body feels better doing that. And this is where this is what I'm really passionate about, is actually bringing people back to a place of self-empowerment. Is that if you go and hit your head on the concrete, right, and then you go to the doctors and they say, oh, well, it shouldn't hurt because you didn't hit it that hard, right? Who's right? If your head is sore, if your head's sore, your head's sore. So what can you do to help it? And if taking gluten out or stopping drinking coffee or whatever it is for you, if it makes you feel better, then it's right for you.
Yeah, so many things with that, eh? Yeah. No, how did you hit your head?
Oh, how did I hit my head? So I'd had a few sort of taps before.
Yeah.
And because I boxed for years, I only had one fight, but I trained and sparred without headgear for quite a long time, and then had a few other falls. But the big one was in lockdown in 2020, and I took the kids for a run at Rangatira Point and tripped on a rock, and then smashed my temple on a rock.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did it break?
What, the rock?
No, your eyebrow.
No, it didn't. I don't know how long I lay there for. I can still remember my kids screaming. That's it.
Yeah. Were you bleeding?
Bleeding. My leg was.
Yeah.
And then when the next day I had a massive black eye. That was all. I couldn't walk properly. Like, I was more concerned about my leg. But I thought a lot of the symptoms that were happening to me were actually stress, because we lost 95% of our business with the lockdown because we're in tourism.
Yeah.
So we were both really stressed anyway. So I thought all the symptoms were stress, until it was about 3 weeks later. I was sitting trying to do computer work, and I couldn't think of what a watermark was. And I sat there for 20 minutes looking at the computer screen, and then I just had this shit almighty fit that I threw the computer across the room, and I started screaming and pulling my hair like I couldn't work out what was happening with me.
You got really angry.
Yeah. And my mood had been changing. I hadn't been sleeping. I developed, sudden insomnia, and headaches and pain and everything. I just thought it was stress. But
even that moment, like, that could still be explained as stress.
Yeah. I mean, you lose 95% of your business, right? Who wouldn't be stressed?
You're gonna throw a toy.
But I sort of had this moment of clarity after I did that, and I decided I was going to move to Waikato Moana, favourite place in the world, right? Super isolated. I decided that in May I was going to pack the car up and go. Just leave my family and go.
All by yourself.
Yeah. Beginning of May. And it was just at that point when the bubbles had dropped, right? And people could move around. So my kids and my husband had gone. And so I packed the car up. I was ready to go. I had a bottle of whiskey, a pouch of cigarettes at the time, no food, one hoodie, sleeping bag.
Wow.
And my dad turned up.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I burst into tears. I said, "I actually do not know."
Yeah.
And I was just a violent, shaking mess. Like, I just lost my shit. And he said, "Look, call the doctor." So I got in touch with Dr. Davies, who's my friend at the time, and he said, "Look, I'm going to put you in to go and see Colin Hancock, who is the concussion specialist." Managed to drive into town that day. I hadn't driven for 6 weeks. which I had cars beeping at me because I was right across the centre line, right? And did all the tests and failed. So that was kind of the beginning of the going under the concussion team, and it was a year of rehab. Because as soon as I came off caffeine, I was on ADHD medication at the time. As soon as I came off that and alcohol, all my speech slowed to a slur.
So you're sort of being stimulated for a bit.
Hell yeah. I was on some good props.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. So how, like, that's severe. How did the concussion team, did it work well for you, do you think?
I think that they were amazing. It was really interesting because I think even as, like, I've studied a lot about health, having done naturopathy and nutrition and personal training, nobody ever talks about the brain. Right? Didn't learn about the brain at all. So apart from the basic function of it, so you go through this journey when your brain isn't working, like, as you know, and it's kind of, I don't know, like, it's out of worldly to not be able to move, like my eyelid was like those slow closing, those magnetic door hinges.
Yeah, or those creepy dolls. You'd love to head up and drop it out of there, goes,
or the whole thing of walking out of a room and not knowing why you'd come into the next room, or like, it's such a scary time. And I think what the concussion team did for me was make it normal, right?
For a concussion,
yeah, like, this is actually normal. You're not going crazy. It's normal. It's your brain. And that was the biggest gift that's motivated me into what I do now, Ryan, is that I'd had a mental health journey prior to that of depression, anxiety, ADHD, and then all of a sudden someone's turning around and going, okay, this behaviour is normal, but we can make your brain better.
Yeah, I was listening to, I think it was talking to Mark Gorman again, and that was one of the things that he was reiterating, and I was like, I don't know if I've heard him say it before, or I just heard it again, but that was exactly what he was saying, is that we need to actually, this is the diagnosis right now, but we need to make you better. There are a couple of small steps that will help, and they might be enough, but there are larger things to go, and post-concussion becomes like a journey, and it gets broader and broader and broader depending on what you need. Those first 3 weeks, most people come right. Then those first 3 months, a big amount of people come right, and then sometimes it can be a year, it can be 2 years. I find a lot of people will come in and they'll say, I've had this surgery, this surgery, this surgery, this surgery in the last 5 years, and then they are feeling a bit vacant, and just even simply saying to them, you realise it takes about 2 years to get over a general anaesthetic? It's like, no, I didn't. You're like, oh, okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
Don't feel so bad. Yeah. And then your nervous system knows that you got cut open and, potentially broke your femur so that they could put a replacement hip in there. Your nervous system knows that you didn't. You were out to it. But that's also affected. And it's the same with the concussion. Your nervous system is trying to protect you, and that's, you're saying about your eyelid. That's why your levator's still going, nah, let the light in. Don't close your eyes. Don't blink. There might be a target there.
And I think when you're going through a concussion journey or recovery, any sort of brain injury, like, what I found is my normal method of attack didn't work. And this is like, I've got a client that I'm working with at the moment, and she's like I was, right? Like, rip, shit and bust.
Yeah.
We're going to push through it, like those sports people, because I used to play a lot of sport as well. Turn around and you go, if I just push, if I just try a little bit harder, but with concussion, it doesn't work like that, because when you push too much, you regress.
And then on the flip side, if you do nothing, you stay.
Yes. So it's like that fine balance.
I was having a client the other day, we were talking about, like, I did this, and then I was ruined for 2 days. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds right. When was that? Oh, that was 3 months ago. Have you tried again? No, I've just been doing enough. It's like, okay, so don't go that far, but have you tried a little bit more? It's like, yeah. And you know, with me, unfortunately, I often get people at 6 months, and I was like, man, I should have seen it ages ago. And then they've got to unload the journey, and so it's all the severe stuff. But then I'm quite lucky. I'm like, and how is that now? And they're like, oh, and they get to have a little bit of a timeline for themselves and look how far they've come, which is, you know, that's why sometimes the history's the biggest healing, because they get to unload where it's been and take note of where they are now. Whereas if they've been working with someone for the last 6 months and pushing with them, they're always feeling like, oh, I'm not there. But then you go, well, like, look actually how far you've come. Yeah, which is sort of a bonus of it, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it's the same with everything. I've got a client in New York who was addicted to opiates for 10 years. And same sort of mindset, right? Always trying to get better, always, you know, like self-critiquing. Mm-hmm. And went through a bit of a low, and I said to him, okay, tell me about your worst time. And he said that he was addicted to kratom, and he was looking, he couldn't walk, right, stumbling around on the floor, had to crawl to the window ledge to flag an ambulance, right, to get somebody to come. And I said, okay, if that's your lowest point, are you there? Are you back there? And he said, well, no, I haven't been back there for years. I'm like, well, shit, boy. You know, that's why you've got to keep that in the back of your head, like how far you've actually come, because otherwise you don't feel like you're progressing. I think that's with any sort of mental health, you know. Yeah,
I lost contact with the guy, unfortunately, but in Northern Rivers, New South Wales, where I was living, I met a guy that was he'd been in Afghanistan, and he was telling me about how he got a job up in Townsville working for one of the banks, and so he got an apartment upstairs so that he could make it downstairs to work. And he said he'd make choices like, am I going to eat dinner or am I going to have a shower? And then he also would take a job knowing that by 6 months he'd be absolutely destroyed. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'd met him in Northern Rivers, and he had like a nice space set up, and I was doing like daily yoga and things like that, and I was like, man, like, you've come like that's such a long way, but you know, and you're feeling like I still can't partake in society at the moment, but like, man, that story is absolutely gnarly, and I don't know how much he had acknowledged the idea of head trauma with that. That's what Mark Gorman and Michael Lewis are sort of feeling, that a lot of the PTSD they see in the military is a spectrum of head trauma. But yeah, it was kind of like, oh my God, that is gnarly stuff. Yeah. But
I think what's really exciting, and this is only from looking at Dr. Amien's work with the SPECT scans.
So right? Can you explain Dr. Amien?
Yeah, so I came across his book during my concussion. So his book is The Brain Warrior's Way.
Cool.
And what it looks at is nutrition, lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. But what I found really, really interesting is that he basically founded these SPECT scans, which are 3 levels up from MRI. And what it's looking at is where the blood flow is happening in the brain. And what he's done this is what's exciting, right, as practitioners, is that he came and you had a blood scan, a SPECT scan, and it might show that the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex is low, right? And then you've got...
That's a problem. I might be a little bit irrational.
Yeah, it's quite common in head trauma.
Yes,
apparently.
That's right.
But if you... so what he's done over the years is he's kind of gone, okay, well, from a natural health perspective, or even because he's a psychiatrist by trade, even from a drug perspective, we're going to give the people this protocol to follow and then see if that improves blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. So all of his protocols are proven.
Yeah.
which is really exciting. So you've got
Do you know where he's proving them with?
through clients, through hundreds of thousands of people that have basically been through his programs.
And do you know who's funding his research?
Wow, I don't know. No, I'd say it's private.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty expensive by the sounds to get a scan done.
Yeah.
And then he's got a supplement company on top of that, so that's probably topping.
Yeah. Some sort of foundation to drive the research. Yeah.
But what I like about it is that it's all proven. But again, it's looking at your particular pattern, like your pattern of concussion, your pattern of rationality is going to be very different from mine, because there might be different areas of the brain that are damaged. So you, through the Dr. Amen stuff, it's similar to naturopathy. You create a pathway individually for that person.
Have you come across the magnetic stimulation, that sort of...
TMI, is it?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know much about it, but I've seen it.
Yes, I had a guy, actually, the very first person I had in this podcast, Liam McElwee, he was working in Canada and working for a company that was doing it. And so that was, again, it was during COVID we last spoke, and that was when he was working there. And he'd only just started, unfortunately, so I didn't get to get a deep understanding of it. But I think they're matching an MR, the head unit matches the sort of magnetic resonance of the brain, and then tries to sort of mirror and get the waves aligned, I think it is. So, I'm probably butchering it. Someone out there who has looked into it is probably screaming at me going,
there's a guy in my group actually who is affiliated with there's some sort of device unit that you can actually buy. I'm pretty sure that I can hook you up. Yeah,
that'd be cool. Yeah, because I think they are also using it for mental health conditions as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's really similar, and this is where I'm so passionate about it, because as I healed during my concussion, right, just focusing on my brain health. So eating for the brain, exercising for the brain, meditating for the brain, blah, 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 right? My mental health turned around. So I managed to come off my ADHD medication, come off the painkillers, come off the anxiety meds, come off the antidepressants, because I was fixated on the brain.
What do you think made it that order? Dropping ADD, dropping anxiety, dropping depression?
I think it probably wasn't in that order.
Wasn't in that order? Yeah.
No, I came off the pain meds. No, might have been antidepressants first, and then pain meds, and then ADHD meds were last.
Okay.
Because that was something that I clung to.
So what did it remove, and what did you notice on taking it?
For the ADD meds?
Yeah.
Well, because I was late diagnosis at 28, and the only reason I wasn't diagnosed earlier was I took my mum along to one of the appointments, and my mum had just had 3 heart attacks. And when the psychiatrist was, she was out of hospital obviously, but the psychiatrist asked her if I'd had similar behaviours as a child, and mum said no, because she was just recovering from her heart attacks and she couldn't remember. So I was actually diagnosed with bipolar, and they put me on to Epilin, and I was on the floor for days. I didn't know what was going on with me. And then my partner at the time, he said, "Oh, try one of these pills," which was ADHD. It was I think it was Ritalin at the time, and it was like everything went quiet in my head. I was like walking into church with no people. It was phenomenal, like phenomenal. And then went back.
And was it just a racket
inside my head? Yeah, constant.
Yeah. And so then, did you have anything that you could hyper focus on?
At that time, I was doing a lot of writing.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped.
And so what does that look like? It creates a stream of consciousness, or what?
Yeah, I think you'd call the ADHD meds?
No, when
you're in hyperfocus.
Yeah.
Yeah, stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is the racket still there, or it goes?
No.
Yeah.
No. And that's what I've been saying to people as well. Like, I think that is the ultimate superpower. I was talking about this with my kids yesterday because all of us were like jumping around crazy like mad hares. And my son keeps saying, "We're crazy, Mum." And I said, "Yeah, but the superpower is that we can hyperfocus."
Yeah. Did the ADD medication take that away, that ability?
Nope.
No.
And what it does, and again, I'm a middle of the road practitioner. I think if you're wanting to jump off a cliff, right, medication's a really good, a really good quick option.
Yeah.
And I think that natural health is a pillow, right? We need to look after ourselves first. But what I found with the ADHD medication, it's similar to putting something in a vice.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my experience, it puts part of my brain in a vice and it will lock me on to whatever I decide is important.
Mm-hmm.
So if I took my ADHD meds in the morning and I decided that I needed to get my housework done, right, I am locked onto that. I won't go and write. I won't go and be creative. If my family and my husband come in and they drop shit on the floor, I'll explode.
Oh wow!
Right, because because it locks me on.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it with. I had a friend who specialises in childhood education, and she said that ADHD, and again, I don't know if this is fact, but what she learned was that ADHD and autism sit quite closely together. And that the ADHD medication can bring out the autistic tendencies.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's locking on the prefrontal cortex, that's normally a little bit scattered and hyped, right? But what I've found is that it creates the anterior cingulate in the brain, which is like our gear shifter in the car, gets locked.
Yeah.
Right, you get locked on.
So you might be going on along in third gear at 6,000 RPM.
Yeah. So it gets locked on,
yeah.
And that's why you can. I don't know. I think with my son was on ADHD medication, and then we looked at weaning him off, changing his lifestyle, changing the diet and things like that, and he is just so much more loving.
So with the anxiety and depression, were you on large waves of the two? So, or did they come both at once?
No, I think it was more. This was pre-concussion as well. I'd probably have waves of anxiety, and then sometimes that would motivate me to get shit done, and then the depression would come. But during the concussion, it was the concussion rehab. It was just waves of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being, I think I was like a wild dog.
Just scared.
Yeah, or rabid.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I was rabid.
Looking back, what do you think the depression was trying to help you do?
I think that the darkest point that I hit was probably a massive realignment.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share a story?
Yeah,
Is it
course.
alright?
Yeah.
So it might offend people if they don't believe in anything higher.
Yeah.
But it was August. I'd had a couple of months of rehab, and I'd been doing everything that I was told to do. I've been to the neuro-optometrist, and I had these brand new glasses so I could drive again, and I felt like things were getting better, except that they weren't, right? I felt like I was functioning more, but I was just over it. Like, I still had the pain in my head. I had the specialist coming every week, and I know I was done from trying, right? From trying, and so I had a massive tantrum episode where I went crazy at my husband, crazy at the kids, and went screaming down the back of our property like a wild woman. And I was sitting outside, and it started raining, and I made a decision I was going to kill myself. I thought, fucking done. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And the world will be better off without me, which is, I think, probably a really common thing in people who are suicidal, right? You start realising or feeling like the world would be better off without you. So I planned everything, and I packed in my car, again, a bottle of whiskey, pouch of cigarettes, running theme, and all of my medication, which was a swag load of painkillers, antidepressants, ADHD meds, and headache pills. And I drove to the back of Awakuni. There's a lake there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of the first times that I had driven that far. It was, I think it's about 2 hours drive, but there's no cell service.
Mm-hmm.
And all I wanted to do was go and wash off this bone carving that I've got on in this lake that's there. Not many people know about it. It's a sacred lake to the Māori.
Mm-hmm.
So I arrived at the lake, no cell service, had all my shit in the car for later, and along with my letters to everybody. And I decided to turn right instead of take the dog track because I didn't want to see any humans. And I walked right round with my head down really low, just crying. All I wanted to do was get to the water, and for some reason I couldn't. Anyway, I finally got down to the water, and I sat down and was kind of going through my life backwards, saying my goodbyes in my head. And I had my head low. I put the taonga in the water, and this light kind of went across, and I heard a voice as clear as your voice is, saying, "Look up." And I looked up, and I was sitting like Mount Ruapehu was right there, covered in snow, and I hadn't even seen it, right? And then the light started dancing across the water, and this voice again straight in my head said, "You're at the bottom now, keep looking up." And at that moment, right, no cell service, my phone started going off.
Right.
And I had messages from my husband, I had messages from my parents, I had messages from a client turning around saying, "I need help, Katie."
Yeah.
And I just looked down, and I realised that nothing I was doing was actually helping me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was on all this medication, and I wasn't happy. And I was doing all these things, and I wasn't happy. And so I got in the car. I chucked all the shit in the bin, like some dog worker would have been very happy.
What is this?
Party at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah.
And drove home, and it was at that point that I actually started to heal.
So what is the next day start looking like?
From that,
I
took 100% responsibility for myself.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that I stopped relying on the specialists. I stopped relying on everybody else to make me better, and I started loving more. I think, it was just a total different shift, and I don't know, because I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up with religion as such, right? And I've always been a bit of a hippie, like I believe in the energy and. Read different religions and Buddhism and things like that, but all of a sudden hearing that voice, I felt like I was held by something higher, and that was the shift. That was the shift for me, is that, and also, like I said to you about that client who was high on kratom, like that was my rock bottom. So I knew that if I kept that in the back of my mind, that was my rock bottom. Every day could only be better than that point.
On looking back on your mental breakdown, like, is that like a sort of a bump in the journey of your life?
I think it was a profound pivot.
Yeah, you created it. You changed what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
You left one. How long had that been your identity? The sort of actress, Katie.
Well, the actress. Well, I think you could probably use that metaphorically, because I came out of it at 23 of acting as such, and then I went into naturopathy and doing events and things like that. But I think prior to the concussion, I probably was still an actress.
Right.
You know, what I mean is having a bullshit front for the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then when you go through a concussion, it's really hard to have a filter. Hey.
So what's the feedback like on that?
I don't know. I lost a lot of friends.
Yeah, like who the fuck are you?
Lost a lot of friends, and I'm just like, you know what? It's a filter. This is who I am, and I've met a lot like beautiful people from around the world who have had TBIs, and they say the same thing. They lost a lot of friends, can't control their mouth. They're say what's on their mind, and I'm like, fuck, just find your tribe.
Mm.
Find your tribe for people that see you for who you are. And now I can't be the actress anymore because it's not in me.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say what people want me to say, or what I'll say what might make them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And like people, like my clients will say to me, oh, you're so lovely. I'm like, wow, I'm just kind of saying what's on my mind. Mm. If there was something else, I'd say that too.
Yeah. Yeah, does sort of playing someone, does that really do filter into your life and you end up playing someone all the time?
Oh, God, yeah. But don't you think most people are like that?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Like I know I've had clients before who might play, I don't know, I'm using a fake scenario if this person is listening, but they might be the bank manager, right? They go and play the bank manager, and then they come home and they're a raging alcoholic having an affair.
Mm-hmm.
But society sees them as this upstanding person. Like we've got all of these roles, and we create these roles from what we think will get us the most love, right? If I'm a sensible, and you just lose that with concussion, you lose it.
Yeah, I was trying to. This is like an interesting mirror. Yeah, like being an optometrist, I don't fit the mold of an optometrist. I never have. Like I remember in my graduate job, we did a disc analysis, and they showed us what typically, and mine was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
and while we were driving up from Hawke's Bay this morning, I was like, I think half my problem is I don't fit the mold, the personality type, and it's been quite, especially of late, quite hard to navigate. And then I often think, like, how much does a concussion matter? And like what did that, like, it did come in a certain period of my life, and then I changed, and or maybe I started seeing something in the relationship I was in, and I was kind of like, this is not right. I don't need this. Yeah. And so it's funny because like Joe Rogan talks about Roseanne and one of the historical comedians both got hit by cars and became completely different, crass comedians that everyone and then the whole idea of like a comedian's just literally saying what everyone's thinking, and so then everyone laughs because they feel so uncomfortable that I'm actually thinking that. But I could never say that. Or like, how do you say that? Like, that's what's so funny about comedians. Yeah. And it's such a common thing with head trauma, like you were saying about the prefrontal cortex. Like, I'd hate to see it like the day after, or a couple of days after.
Oh yeah, be phenomenal.
Yeah, like all this firing in your amygdala and in your brainstem, and nothing going forward.
I keep my mouth shut a lot now.
Yeah,
like that's one thing that I've learned to do is in social situations I'm very quiet.
That's what the like neural link thing. God, that'd be a horrible month for a while. Yeah. Everyone hearing what everyone's thinking. So you've decided that you're going to take responsibility for you and your being. How do you think about the tools? Like, do you take them as sort of like I'm going to experiment with this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard you mention Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
Before, which is during my gym days, that was my Bible.
Yeah.
The 4-Hour Body Book.
4-Hour Body.
Because I love his whole ethos of just trying it.
Yeah.
And that's what I found really powerful with healing from the concussion, or even your brain health or health in general, or anything, right? Is you just go, okay, I'm just going to experiment with this for a couple of weeks and see how I actually feel. You know, and that's what I found really powerful. So I'll just start to see patterns that, oh shit, if I eat that, it makes me feel more tired, or if I do that, then I get groggy. You know, and then you start to create a toolbox.
How do you monitor it?
I journal a lot. But
And what does that look like?
Wow, the diary.
Yeah.
1-page diary.
Writing down what you've done, or just weird thinking?
No, just sort of an overview. And again, this is something from the concussion team. Like, I'll just do a very, very short overview. Or if I'm fixating is probably the wrong word, but say if I'm trying to find a dietary link between, because I used to get a lot of migraines. If I'm wanting to find a dietary link, I'll write down my food, and then I'll rank my symptoms out of 10. You know, and then try to see the patterns, because it's for food intolerances, it's 36 hours. So you might eat something 36 hours ago and then get a migraine. But quite often we don't put the two together because it's a day and a half ago. You know, yeah, stuff like that.
So you're still monitoring your symptoms?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Especially after, so so 2020 was the initial head bang. And then, because I've got an avid fear of heights, which I decided with bullshit and bravado that I was going to conquer this year. So for my birthday in February, I did a skydive. And then after the skydive, I jumped off the top of a two-story boat into the water. And then I got concussion symptoms back.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a couple of weeks of wobbling. So that's kind of where I am. That's why I'm still looking now at what's helping, what's hurting.
Do you think you got some whiplash in those?
Yeah. All neck related. I went to a friend of mine who's a chiropractor. She got a massive crack out of the neck, and then I went and had a couple of sessions of craniosacral, and then just went back to a low carb diet again. So it was just a good reminder to go back to what I know works. Yeah.
What happened in the craniosacral? Did it all fire off in your neck, or?
I could feel it. Have you had it done? Yeah. Do you like it?
I found it strange because I've had very similar things. What's the end of yoga called? Vipassana?
Yeah. Vipassana.
So I'd already had that experience in Vipassana. So then to be lying on the bed and having things fire off was quite like, I don't know, I think it lost its value because I'd had it done to myself. And interesting, like the last Wim Hof I did with Nigel Beach, it was a thing for Ārepa, and I had twinged my hip that I've had surgery on after I'd sort of strained my left hamstring. I was still running for the month, and then I'd been back loading my left side, and during the Wim Hof, my left leg was absolutely rocketing. And I was like, I've been favouring that for the last month. So I definitely sort of have understanding experience of what's going on, and then I think that probably drives why I see the world a lot in your sort of autonomic nervous system from those experiences. Yeah,
absolutely.
And how you can, that whole body keeps a score type vibe that, if it's in your neck and then you're supporting it, and, having minor concussions and then getting an injury, that's going to happen. Like the chance of injuring something goes up so much after you have a concussion is unreal. Yeah. How long was that your first experience doing it, or you'd done it plenty before?
No, I had during the concussion recovery, I'd had craniosacral before.
Yeah.
And then in my early 20s, when I was still acting, I went for a massage, and the guy ended up doing craniosacral. And I was like, what is this? Like, I played for a massage.
Yeah, well, you're just touching my head.
But it was really odd, because then my hips, like, all he was doing was like, I don't know, holding my ankles or something, and then my hip would click in. I was like, what's this bullshit witchcraft?
Yeah.
But it's so good. And I think that's I recommend it now to people that go through concussion, because it's something that actually I found it helped without me having to do any work. And it was really bizarre. Like after my concussion, I started to see in 4D.
Yeah.
Like it was phenomenal. It was
What colours or sounds?
No, colours.
Colours.
Yeah, like colours. Like I'd look at a landscape and I could see, it was really bizarre. It's like, I've never done acid ed before, but I can imagine it would be like dropping an acid tab. Is that I would actually start to see in 4D like how I could draw it and how the paint would go on it, and like I became obsessed. And I had these crayons and I used to layer them and everything, and the art wasn't really that good. But then I went and I could draw.
Yeah.
Right? First time ever in my life I could actually draw. Then I went to go and get craniosacral therapy and it stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, just stopped. Because it obviously brought my brain back into alignment again.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy about that.
What was the visual therapy you did?
So I did a lot of saccades. Yeah, mainly. That was the main visual therapy. And then went to the neuro. I mean, that's what you do is amazing. The neuro optometrist, it changed my life. Changed my life.
So they give you prisms or what?
Yeah, prisms, and I've still got them. Probably need to get retested. And tinted lens. Yeah. But I literally, when I put them on, it felt like my brain sighed. You know. Like,
was it specifically a Nerlin lens or?
I don't know.
Don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. But my midline had been kicked. Yeah. A couple of inches.
As you said, you drove down the middle of the road.
Yeah. Woohoo!
I followed someone the other week that they were the opposite, and I was like, well, that's probably a better place to be over there on the side of the road. But golly, yeah, they were hugging the left hand side. I was like, oh, hope no gravel or potholes jump out at them. But it's better than driving down the middle of the road.
Yeah. But I think it's incredible. You know, one thing the concussion journey has taught me is the utmost empathy for people. Because it's similar to mental health, right? It's an inside problem. And, you know, especially going through post-concussion, you think of all the sports people in this country, or people like my husband who have grown up playing rugby. Yeah. Right? And there might be some sort of emotional thing happening for them. And they've got no frame of reference that it might actually be something that's happening with their brain. You know?
Do you also think that the inflammation is it's like pretty parallel, eh?
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. And when you look at the statistics that I read, again, these are through Dr. Amen, it said that in the next 30 years, the rate of Alzheimer's is just going to go through the roof. You know, the rate of people with Alzheimer's. So we know that it's coined type 3 diabetes. We know that type 2 diabetes is from lifestyle, you know, 80% lifestyle, and inflammation is a really big picture in that as well. So all this stuff with the brain, we're starting to see these mirrors of lifestyle factors, particularly nutrition, impacting our brain function. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I talk about our little canary in the coal mine of macular degeneration, which they're using as like is it Alzheimer's? Is it a sign of Alzheimer's, or is it Alzheimer's of the macula? Yeah, and the whole tail tangles looking for that thing's probably been unwound. As more of a sign rather than a cause, but like again, that's probably the same with macular degeneration. The drusen, the build-up of these fatty plaques, is a sign rather than a cause of this hyperinflation or hyperoxidation. And so it's interesting, now we've got 10 years of this. It's a reasonably poor study because it's just retrospective. Like these people that didn't progress with macular degeneration, what have they done? They had oily fish and good nutrition, so lutein and zeaxanthin and zinc, and so that this supplement version of it can sort of give them a buffer. So 5 years they had like a 26% reduction in risk, and at 10 years it's still 20% reduction in risk. So that's one in five is still not great.
Yeah.
But and then it's kind of like these people with family history that are sort of 6 times increase of risk. And it's like, well, do I take the supplement? And I was like, I'd say it's not doing nothing. And then it's like, well, I take fish oil. And you're like, well, the study doesn't show that that's beneficial, but I'd still take it. I do take it, but that's for different reasons. But it's like, boost your omega-3, bring down your omega-6, and on the balance that should do a lot of good, not just for the case of macular degeneration, like I say, Alzheimer's, your memory, your knees, your hips, your shoulders, your heart,
But I think with most things, and this is the patterning that I'm seeing, Ryan, is that rather than using that Tim Ferriss approach where people try it, right? You try it, it may have a bit of background science on it, but you try it for your own body, and then does it make you feel better? Like, are you getting results from trying that supplement or trying that new diet or trying that exercise regime? Is it making you feel better? Like so many people, like one of my clients I have that's going through cancer is continuously waiting for the specialist to say this is the next step. Like
what's your adjunctive care?
Yeah. So taking that that self-empowerment is being able to experiment and try these things that may have a bit of research around them, and just see how they make you feel.
Yeah, and it's interesting some of the anecdotes that Tim talks about, in particular when he had Dom D'Agostino on about like fasting or keto and not just potentially optimizing the effects of the chemo or radiation therapy, but actually what they're able to do around it. And like one of the biggest fears is this, losing all your muscle mass. Well, if you're feeling better, then you might still be able to train. And then vice versa, Dom sort of suggested that those that were weight training before their bout of chemotherapy did better. And like, there's someone I've had on here, J.G. Hill, and he's a personal trainer, big guy, and I do wonder how much that helped him, And now he's recovered, he's back massive again. Runs a gym up north, but it's like, you still got cancer, which was completely horrible, but how much did that foundation and your willingness to fight and support that, and like you said, he was on another round that he was willing to give up on, but he had this foundation that probably meant he could have, and it was potentially the thing that meant, because he could do that another bout of treatment, he got rid of it all, and now so far, I think he's up to 6 years now in remission. It's like, you start feeling a bit nicer about life and future. Yeah.
Because I think for all things, particularly people that are going through a mental, any sort of mental health or health journey, is having hope, right? And sometimes, that, like with this client I was talking about, his hope is firmly pinned in the specialists, right? Next appointment, next drug, similar to how it was with the concussion team. Next appointment, next drug to get rid of the pain, right? But when you turn around and you have these lifestyle things like your friend that was weight training, if we look at self-empowerment, right? What can I do to make myself feel better? What can I do to create a buffer around those treatment options?
Yeah, it's interesting you say about the reliance on specialists. Like we don't do any of the visual training, and I'd be cautious not to tell people as a panacea that this is going to fix you. And same when it comes to the glasses, I always frame that these are a tool. Like you say, you don't really use them too much anymore. They were a tool to sort of narrow down the band that you were experiencing at the time. And as your capacity grows, the need for them becomes less. Yeah. We often term things a bit like crutches. Yeah. We the nervous system's quite powerful. Concussion vision symptoms are from an overactive sympathetic nervous system due to the injury, but commonly in 5 and 6 year old boys and in teenage girls, we see the exact same shutdown of the visual system.
Wow.
And use the same tools to resolve it. So, yeah, when it comes to like concussion optometry, it's actually the same thing as you're doing for a teenage girl going through the world, or a 5 or 6 year old boy sitting in the classroom when he wants to be outside.
Wow, that's amazing, eh?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Or at least that's how I see it, and the person that I spend a bit of time with in Hawke's Bay. Yeah, he keeps saying to me, the more I do this job, the more I see the autonomic nervous system just driving everything. And you're like, yeah, I think probably a lot to that, yeah. And yeah, like concussion just ramps that up.
Yeah.
No, but that's a good thing to be mindful of, eh? And I see in a lot of health professionals a big saviour complex. And that's what's really nice about the idea of the concussion team.
Yes.
That it's not just one thing doing it. And you brought up Colin there, topical physiotherapist. I'm quite happy for them to do visual training stuff as part of the rehab. You know, how the clients have often described it as what I do. So I'm like, that's great. Keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, I went up to
so long, all right? Creatine?
No, this was another specialist that I was seeing for I think it was a work assessment, to get me back to work. And I was still having massive headaches. Like, this was a year afterwards. Okay, or it might have just been a little bit less than that. But I was getting peripheral neuropathy down my hands, and my legs still wasn't right. Like, still couldn't walk properly. And went to see this specialist up there. And basically he was late, right? We were the first appointment there. We drove him from Taupo to Hamilton. He was late. Yeah. And then I had to recount the whole story again to him, right? Hadn't read his notes. And then he said to me, like, he did a little bit of balance testing, a little bit of eye testing, and he said to me, Mrs. Jolly, I think you are just stressed. And I said to him, I said, because I've done yoga teaching qualification as well. I said, so it's just stress, is it? I said, the peripheral neuropathy that I'm experiencing, and, that my leg feels like it's going to buckle. I said, it's stress. And he said, oh, yes, I think you need to do more yoga. And I came out of there. I was in there for 10 minutes. We'd driven to Hamilton. He was late. I was boiling. Yeah. Right? And then my husband, he said to me, that's a good result. He said, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just stress. I lost my shit. And I ended up writing a letter. Yeah. And demanding an MRI of my neck, because I'd done all the research, right? You get a Google PhD in your own symptoms. I knew that there was something wrong with my C3, C4 area. Like, I'd read it on Google. I know what's causing my peripheral neuropathy. And I demanded an MRI, and I said, you know what? I said, you're not actually living my life. Yeah. You're not living my life, so it's really easy for you in your office job and this is where, when you say about the saviour complex, I think this is where the real danger is with practitioners, and it's changed how I function as a naturopath, because I go, I'm not living in your skin, right? So if this suggestion doesn't work for you, then you're right. I'm not wrong, but I'm not right either, because anyway, I ended up getting an MRI because it was a very shitty letter, and they found I'd torn my meniscus in my knee, which needed surgery, and then I had annular tears in my vertebrae. So that's what was causing the peripheral neuropathy, but it was only after having a massive tantrum. I don't know. Far out. Live and learn. Yeah. Live and learn. Yeah.
So if anyone's connecting with this stuff, like, where can they find you, or where can they be a part of your sort of brain gardeners, isn't it?
Yeah. I changed it. Because my prefrontal cortex not working properly. I set it up as Brain Warriors. Yeah. Not actually thinking I was, and I did actually check it out with Dr. Amen's team. Yeah. because that's his brand,
Yeah.
is Brain Warriors. I was like, oh, I've set my website up and my Facebook group up as Brain Warriors. And I said, is that okay? And they said, yeah, it's fine. Just mention Dr. Amen.
Yeah.
But I felt guilty
Yeah.
about stealing his name. So I changed it to Brain Gardeners Global,
Yeah.
which is on Facebook. I'm on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Not narcissistic, but I'm on there promoting my coaching business. And then I've got a website as well, which is brainwarriorsglobal.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
And not just for TBI, for naturopathy and coaching as well.
Yeah. My big thing is that brain health is mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at a whole lot of tools to basically help people with their mental health. So I've got all sorts of, like, I've got a guy who's got bipolar, I've got clients who've gone through concussion, lots of ADHD people who I love.
Yeah.
So if you've got ADHD, come see me.
Yeah.
Because we are one.
Nice. So, Katie, my final question, and it's interesting that you've got a bit of a yoga background too. What keeps you in flow? Do you have a mantra or a way you live your life, or it's a quote that you touch on regularly?
What really keeps me in flow is a morning routine.
Mm-hmm.
And which comprises of exercise, meditation, and then making sure I've got a good breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just recently tapped into Sadhguru again, who is, who he is? Yeah. So he was actually massive. I did engineering during my concussion,
mm-hmm.
the rehab, and they were offering it free for health practitioners.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so he has a meditation mantra, which is, I am not the body, I am not the mind.
Mm.
Yeah, so it teaches detachment.
Yeah, beautiful.
So,
And that's working for you?
Yeah, it's working for me. It's working for me because I can go, not my monkeys, not my zoo.
Is that him as well? Did he?
No. I think somebody else. I don't know. That's an old saying.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Katie. On Easter weekend.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we'll call that there. Lovely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool.
Find the spot with the kids.
Do you want another cup of tea or something while you're...
Oh, yeah, I'd love one. Thank
Like
you.
one?